ॐ परतत्त्वे सदा लीनो रामकृष्णसमाज्ञया यो धर्मस्थापनरतो वीरेशं तं नमाम्यहम्. We are studying here Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga, and we are in the chapter God in Everything. I told you on the last time that this is a lecture on Ishopanishad. Swamiji is reading Ishopanishad line by line here, and from topic point of view, it is a lecture on the immanence of Brahman. We have learned in last 3-4 lectures that Brahman is absolutely transcendent, that Brahman is beyond everything. Sarvatita, Lakshana of Brahman, we have mostly heard. But the same Brahman which is Sarvatita is Sarvavyapi or Sarvagata. The same Brahman which is transcendent is simultaneously immanent. It is present everywhere, present in all, and that only completes the picture of Brahman. To call Brahman only Nirguna is a partial view. Unless we add Supreme Brahman is Nirgun Sagun, Sarvatita Sarvagata, it won't become complete in our mind. And I referred once upon a time of the Mandukya Upanishad first 2 mantras. The first mantra telling that Om Ityetad Aksharam Idam Sarvam means that the world is unreal, behind the world there is a reality, and second mantra telling that all this world is Brahman only. So the reality which was behind and beyond the world itself appears as this world. We also refer to it from the Ishopanishad itself in the 8th mantra, where Paribhu Swayambhu is defined as transcendent immanent Brahman. And so Swamiji takes up this topic, God in everything, basing upon Ishopanishad, and in his Swamiji's inimitable style, Swamiji's force of personality comes in and lifts our mind to that height so that we can understand it and later on realize it. So, and Swamiji starts with like that, we have seen how the greater portion of our life must be of necessity be filled with evils. So first Swamiji shows that our present life is not perfect, is imperfect. It is full of evils. We cannot deny that. But behind and beyond is the infinite in which there is no more evil. You lost your network connection. Yes, it has come back. So, behind and beyond is the infinite, in which there is no more evil. Some people call it God, some Allah, some Jehovah, Joe, and so on. The Vedantist calls it Brahman. So, names are given to the same reality. Ideas or concepts also differ. But actually the real meaning of all this is the transcendent reality which is behind and beyond all this. And then Swamiji says what the religions tell us is to give up this life. But it does not mean that we have to destroy life. It means that life as it appears to us has to be given up to catch the reality behind and to see that that reality is this life. So, whatever remedy we try, then is there no way out then? The Vedanta says that what all the religions advance is perfectly true, but it should be properly understood. Often it is misunderstood because the religions are not very clear in their meaning. And here he brings that head and heart both are necessary. Critically and devotionally, we have to understand the scriptures. What is the real meaning of their telling, that we must understand, and then feel it and realize it. So, most of the religions understand the fact, but the error into which they all seem to fall is the same. They are carried away by the heart, the feelings. And here Swamiji says that actually it is the feeling that will lead to realization. But feeling should not become a mere emotion. Feeling should not take us to, emotion can lead us to darkness, can pitfalls. And there the reason is useful to find out the meaning, and then the feeling has to be applied. And yet what remains to us, if this theory involves giving up the life of the senses, this we have to give up, the life of the senses, the life as we know it. And what else do we mean by life? If we give this up, what remains? We find in Vedanta alone, we find a rational solution to this problem. Vedanta does not in reality denounce the world. Swamiji had to say this because even today the traditional Shankarites emphasize the transcendence of Brahman. And about the world they will go on saying it is unreal, it is unreal, it is unreal. And my Guruji told me to call the world false is half the truth. That leads to negative realism. That means world is false, means false world is. And we search from where it came, how the delusion came. So, in Maya lecture, Swamiji has shown there is no answer to this. It is a statement of fact. So, we should not be carried away by this. We must find that giving up the world as we think of it, as we know it, as it appears to us, and to know what it really is, deify it. It is God alone. God alone, not the appearances. The appearances are appearance of God. Important point Swamiji is emphasizing. Swamiji's Vedanta is as he read in Sri Ramakrishna, where Sri Ramakrishna says, I emphasize both the transcendent and the immanent. I told you the Holy Mother's statement that Shankaracharya emphasized, she did not name. She said that the previous Mahapurushas emphasized one aspect and that caused the suppression of other aspects. This time it has not happened so. Sri Ramakrishna emphasized every aspect of Brahman experience. So, that is called God alone. As it appears to us has to be given up, and really it is God alone. We read as the commencement of one of the oldest of the Upanishads, that is Ishopanishad. Whatever exists in this universe is to be covered with the Lord. Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. The translation is what Swamiji gives. But what is the meaning of covering? It is not forcing something on the other. Something is inside and we simply cover it by other. That is not the meaning. The meaning is that Shankaracharya has given beautiful example there. That we have a piece of sandalwood, and because it was lying in water for a long time, bad smell is coming out of it. We take it out of water and we start rubbing it. When we rub, then the sweet smell comes out, and that sweet smell covers the bad odor. So bad odor was not natural. Sweet smell is the nature of sandalwood. So covering everything by Lord is to understand and realize that it is Lord who is the reality of all, not what it appears. So, not by false sort of optimism, not by blinding our eyes to the evil, but by really seeing God in everything. Thus, we have to give up the world. And when the world is given up, what remains? God. Ishavasam idam sarvam. And then, yat kincha jagatyam jagat, tena tyaktena bhunjitha. Tena tyaktena bhunjitha is wrongly translated by renounce and enjoy. That has no meaning. Tena tyaktena bhunjitha means protect yourself by that renunciation. And this Swamiji translates as, when the world is given up, what remains? God. What is meant? You can have your wife. It does not mean that you are to abandon her, but that you are to see God in the wife. You give up your children. What does that mean? To turn them out of doors as some human brutes do? Certainly not. That is diabolism. But see God in your children. So in everything, that is the most important point. Some people see God in good things and in devil in bad things. That is not Vedanta at all. It is the expression of the same Brahman. There is no devil. So Swamiji says, in life and in death, in happiness and in misery, the Lord is equally present. The whole world is full of the Lord. Open your eyes and see Him. Eyes are opened, but our real drishti is not opened. Our vision is not opened. So the knowledge will open our vision, real vision. There is a shloka, Ajnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namah. I was blinded by the darkness of Ajnana. My Guru put an anjan of knowledge and opened my eyes. So everywhere the real vision has to be opened. Mirabai says, Ulata bhai more nainana ki. That means we are seeing outside. She says, I learned to see inside and saw that everything is God. Give up the world which you have conjecture. That means this tyaga is absolutely necessary. Tyaga of the apparent forms, so that the reality will be seen. To see the reality in place of appearances is called the immanence of God. Otherwise, the immanence wrongly understood becomes pantheism. This table is God, this chair is God. No. Table is a form in which God exists. Chair is the form in which God exists. So the form is unreal, form is changing continuously. The real nature is God, Brahman. That is called immanence. This is what Vedanta teaches. Give up the world which you have conjectured, because your conjecture was based upon a very partial experience, upon your very poor reasoning, and upon your own weakness. Weakness is being attached to the world as we see. Poor reasoning is that we could not understand. Partial experience means only the experience of the waking state we are considering and thinking if the world is real. Give it up. The world we have been thinking of so long, the world to which we have been clinging so long, is a false world of our own creation. Give that up. Open your eyes and see that as such it never existed. Important point. As such, that means as it appears, it never existed. It was a dream, Maya. So in dream also there is appearance, but it is not real. Maya means a mixture of real and unreal. That is the world. What existed was the Lord Himself. It is Brahman alone which exists in various forms. It is He who is in the child, in the wife and in the husband. It is He who is in the good and in the bad. He is in the sin and in the sinner. He is in life and in death. A tremendous assertion indeed, because it is Rishi's vision. Yet that is the theme which the Vedanta wants to demonstrate, to teach and to preach. This is just the opening theme. Thus we avoid, now we start today's topic. Thus we avoid the dangers of life and its evils. How we avoid? Do not desire anything. ईशावास्यम इदम सर्वम यत्किंच जगत्याम जगत तेन तक्तेन भुंजेता मा गृधा. So Swamiji is reading this mantra and translating it. Ma grudha, don't have greed, don't covet anything. Swamiji has gone to the root of it and says, don't desire anything. The cause of all miseries from which we suffer is desire. That is Bhagavan Buddha's analysis. That misery exists in the world, you cannot deny. And the cause of misery is tanna, desire. And if we remove the cause, then the miseries will go. Not by applying some superficial ointment. The cause of all miseries from which we suffer is desire. You desire something and the desire is not fulfilled, the desire is never fulfilled. Because apparently if it is fulfilled, it grows, desire still grows, and it is never fulfilled. The result is distress. If there is no desire, there is no suffering. But here too, there is the danger of my being misunderstood. Two extremes look alike. The wall has no desire, no feeling. And people think that Sitaprajna has no feeling. He is like a wall. That is absolutely wrong. So Swamiji is taking care of that. Don't desire, don't misunderstand. So it is necessary to explain what I mean by giving up desire and becoming free from all misery. The walls have no desire and they never suffer. True. But they never evolve. They never have happiness also, and they never evolve. They remain as walls. This chair has no desires, it never suffers, but it is always a chair. There is a glory, now Swamiji comes to the other point, that when we suffer, it is a lesson to us. When we suffer, we need not shout. When we suffer, we should understand it has given us a lesson. And so, if the desire is there, suffering is there, learn from that. There is a glory in happiness, there is a glory in suffering. If I may dare to say so, there is utility in evil too. People do not understand, so Swamiji says, if I dare to say so. The great lesson in misery we all know. There are hundreds of things we have done in our lives which we wish we had never done, but which at the same time have been great teachers. One gentleman used to call this as experience account. Experience, my Guruji also told me, we have done something, we understood it is wrong, then we do not repeat it, that is called experience. Old people saying we have experience of the world is of no meaning. If the same mistake we are repeating, it is not experience. So, hundreds of things we have done in our lives which we wish we had never done, but which at the same time have been great teachers. As for me, I am glad I have done something good and many things bad. Glad I have done something right and glad I have committed many errors, because every one of them has been a great lesson. I, as I am now, are the resultant of all I have done, all I have thought. So thought also is an action. Every action and thought have had their effect, and these effects are the sum total of my progress. The character itself becomes formed by what we are happy about and what we are miserable about, if we understand the lesson from it. We all understand that desires are wrong, so that is a subtopic had come, parenthetical topic. That while talking of desire is the cause of misery, then there Swamiji adds that misery also let us teach us. Let us get the experience. Now it comes to the original theme, that desires are wrong. So in between was a parenthetical clause, a subtopic. We all understand that desires are wrong, but what is meant by giving up desires? How could life go on? So the original topic Swamiji takes that we don't have to become like wall. How could life go on? It would be the same suicidal advice, killing the desire and the man too. The solution is this. Not that you should not have property, not that you should not have things which are necessary and things which are even luxuries. Have all that you want and more. Only know the truth and realize it. What is the truth? Wealth does not belong to anybody. Have no idea of proprietorship, possessorship. That is the main idea. Same mantra continued. Ma kruta kasya svit dhanam. The property does not belong to anybody. It is put in the form of a question. To whom does this property belong? Two friends or two brothers divide property by drawing a line. This side is mine, that side is yours. And Sri Ramakrishna says, God laughs at that time. They die. The earth remains. So, to whom that earth belongs? No. You have something, but don't call it is mine. The whole thing is to call it mine. Proprietorship, possessorship, and that destroys the life. If we could have whatever we require or whatever we even do not require, but without the idea of possessorship, let me tell a story. Mahapurush Maharaj, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple, was in Ooty, and some devotee presented to him a very costly shawl and wrapped him with that shawl. And people started telling it looks very nice. Next moment, the washerman came with his young daughter, and she was looking at that shawl with wonderstruck eyes. Mahapurush Maharaj took a shawl and put it around her and said, you take it. So, somebody had given, but he did not possess it in the mind. And that is why they are always happy. We feel happiness is collecting more and more things. But the more things you collect, the more slave you become to those things. So, this is the example given for not possessorship. You are nobody, nor am I, nor anyone else. What is the meaning you are nobody? I as an individual is unreal. The background is God and He appears as I, you, he, she, it. That is the meaning of you are nobody. You are nobody, nor am I, nor anyone else. It is not telling to a particular man that you are nobody. So He makes it universal. All belongs to the Lord. He is the possessor of everything. Because the opening verse, that very Upanishad, told us to put the Lord in everything. So Ishavasam idam sarvam means everything is God, so everything belongs to Him. If God Himself is all, how can it belong to somebody else? It belongs to God only. This should not be an idea only. We studied the practical Vedanta first. So every idea which we get in this Swamiji's Jnana Yoga has to be realized. God is in the wealth that you enjoy. He is in the desire that rises in your mind. So subtler and subtler vyapti of God, pervasiveness of God has to understand. The mind belongs to God. Desire opening in the mind is God. Not that it is God, so gone fulfilling. If you understand it is God, there will be no desire. It will be God only. He is in the things you buy to satisfy your desire. He is in your beautiful attire, in your beautiful ornaments. This is the line of thought. So in good and bad and everything which we possess, if God is there, how can we possess Him? All will be metamorphosed. Metamorphosed means transcendentally transformed. Transformed totally. Transformation of consciousness will lead to transfiguration of personality. The whole personality will be changed. The example Sri Ramakrishna has given is, there is a sword made of steel and we cut the enemy with that. But if it is touched with the philosopher's stone, it turns into gold. Shape remains same. It is called metamorphosis. All will be metamorphosed as soon as you begin to see things in that light. See, experience. If you put God in your every movement, in your conversation, in your form, in everything, that is meant by covering everything with the Lord. The whole scene changes and the world, instead of appearing as one of woe and misery, will become a heaven. There is an example for that. Swami Turiyananda visited the Belur Math after some gap, and Swami Premananda was showing him around. And he is telling, this is the kitchen where we cook food for the Lord. Here is the garden where we grow vegetables for the Lord. Here is the flower garden where we grow flowers to be offered to God. Here is the ground. We keep it so clean that when the Lord walks, no thorn should hit him, like that. When Turiyanandaji went back to Kashi and wrote a letter from there, that I had heard Ishavasam idam sarvam, that day I saw that Ishavasam idam sarvam. That means our consciousness reflected in our mind is filled with God. And so everything becomes related to God only. That is Ishavasam. And then everything is heaven. I will tell you another incident. It has happened in both the cases, Sardan Swamiji and Turiyan Swamiji. Sri Ramakrishna sent them to bake food. And a lady appeared and said, you are sufficiently healthy. You could have done at least conductorship. Why you are baking food? And she shouted and did not give anything. Sardan Swamiji comes back and is laughing and say, I saw Mother Kali today. How she scolded me nicely. So in the person who is scolding also he sees God. That is Ishavasam. Not only a person loves me, then God is there. If he angry on me, that also is God. That is Ishavasam. Now he refers to the Bible. That is his particular habit. He shows that every scripture teaches the same thing. We might not have understood it. The kingdom of heaven is within you, says Jesus. So says the Vedanta. And every great teacher, he that hath eyes to see, let him see. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. This is all from Jesus. That means if the consciousness is changed, all our organs function in different way. The Vedanta proves that the truth for which you have been searching all this time is present and was all the time with us. Truth or Brahman is with us. It appears in our form, in the things which we possess and everything. In our ignorance, we thought we had lost it. Wrong knowledge, ignorance is wrong knowledge. In our ignorance, we thought we had lost it and went about the world crying and weeping and struggling to find the truth. Truth means Brahman here, God, while all along it was dwelling in our own heart. There alone can we find it. If you understand the giving of the world in its old crude sense, then it would come to this, that we must not work. Swamiji is taking up the second verse of the Ishopanishad now, and his interpretation may differ from what Shankaracharya is telling us. He is putting it in new light. And this also, I will read it out, but before that I am telling, in the Shvetashvatar Bhashya, Shankara has given this interpretation, which Swamiji is giving now. कुर्वन्नेवेह कर्माणि जिजी विशेषतं समा एवं त्वयि नान्यथो अतो अस्ति न कर्म लिप्यते नरे. Shankar says this is meant for those who cannot receive knowledge. But in Shvetashvatar commentary he says it also represents the glory of the man of knowledge. Let him do any work, it does not differ, his consciousness does not change. So this is called immanence of God. People, the dry sadhus, do not understand this and they decry the work being done by Ramakrishna Mission. Here again, that reference is coming to me again and again, what can I do? Yogi Aurobindo criticized the work done by the mission and said it has nothing to do with sadhana. The old sadhus also used to say it is vikshepa, it disturbs the mind. And when you go to visit them, you find they are discussing politics. That does not disturb the mind. They grow their own food and eat it. Does not disturb the mind. So, Swamiji is interpreting this Kurvanevaya Karmani in a new light, as we found in the Shankar's commentary on the Shvetashvatar Upanishad. The man of knowledge apparently can do any work. The example is given of Janaka, of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. You may take the example of Shankara himself. Whole life he was doing work to establish, to make people understand what is religion. That is the work done by Shri Ramakrishna, by Swami Vivekananda. And every great teacher, is he not doing work? No. Drishyate natu tat karma yatha bhagavato vasudevasya. It appears to be karma. Inside consciousness is different. That theme Swamiji takes up now, that if we understand the giving up of the world in its old crude sense, then it would come to this, that we must not work, that we must be idle, sitting like lumps of earth, neither thinking nor doing anything, but must become fatalists, driven about by every circumstance, ordered about by the laws of nature, drifting from place to place. Drifting is the correct word. If you do not do work, what will happen? We sit idle. Then the throng of the samashti, the society, will push us down. If we are in the Ganges And if you do not make an effort to cross it or to go against the current, you will find yourself 500 miles down. That is called drifting. And that is what makes man immoral. That is what is happening today in the world. The world is drifting. Nobody, except the real sadhakas, nobody is trying to ford the river. And so, not doing karma cannot be the solution. Automatically we are doing karma. We are doing karma of degrading ourselves. Unless we do good karma, we will do bad karma. Swamiji has described that state very beautifully. We must not work, we must be idle, tamogun, sitting like lumps of earth, neither thinking nor doing anything, but must become fatalist. Fatalist means we are destined to be like that. What can we do? In America, a new philosophy has arisen. And this philosophy is very old. But every man thinks he has done something new. And he says that we have no freedom. We are just cogs in the whole wheel which is called the world. And wherever destiny will carry us, we are going. Now, Swamiji in his own time has met this philosophy in America. And he has written an article in which he has said, if we are matter, then that is true. If we are consciousness, we are ever free. In this, consciousness is not involved. God is not involved. If we are matter, then we are drifting. If we are matter, we are carried away by this society. But if we are consciousness, then this does not affect us. That is the real way. Drifting from place to place, that would be the result. But that is not what is meant. We must work. Ordinary mankind driven everywhere by false desire, what do they know of work? So, 2-3 things. Don't do work, tamogun. In Swamiji's Karma Yoga, Swamiji has explained this. Then some passion comes. And after that passion we work. Most of the world works like that. That is no work, Swamiji says. Neither it does any good to society, nor it makes us evolve. So work done with passion is not the work. Then what is the thing? Be peaceful. Do the Lord's work. See Lord in everything and then work. We must work. Ordinary mankind driven everywhere by false desire, what do they know of work? The man propelled by his own feelings and his own senses, what does he know about work? He works who is not propelled by his own desires, by any selfishness whatsoever. He works who has no ulterior motive for view. He works who has nothing to gain from work. So, na karma lipyate nare, in the second mantra, Swamiji is telling that if you do work with passion, it is not called work, but work which has no ulterior motive only is work, which will help society and which will evolve us. And that is why Swamiji gave that motto through the Ramakrishna Mission, Atmano Mokshartham Jagat Hitaya. This Jagat Hitaya becomes a part of Atmano Mokshartham. When we help the world, our mind becomes purified. And then we progress towards God. Swamiji is giving examples for this. Possessorship, work with passion, for that Swamiji is giving examples. Who enjoys the picture? The seller or the seer? Seller enjoys only the money which he gets, not the picture. The seller is busy with his accounts, computing what his gain will be. There were no computers in Swamiji's time. Computing what his gain will be, how much profit he will realize on the picture. His brain is full of that. He is looking at the hammer and watching the beads. The picture is auctioned and there this hammer is used. This bead is finalized, then the hammer is kept. So that is what he is watching. He is intent on hearing how fast the beads are rising. That man is enjoying the picture who has gone there without any intention of buying or selling. He looks at the picture and enjoys it. So this whole universe is a picture, and when these desires have vanished, men will enjoy the world. And then this buying and selling and these foolish ideas of possession will be ended. Example beautiful. The money lender gone, the buyer gone, the seller gone, the world remains the picture, a beautiful painting. I have never read of any more beautiful conception of God than the following. He is the great poet, the ancient poet. The whole universe is like his poem, coming in verses and rhymes and rhythms, written in definite place. There is a part of it tallies with the 8th mantra of Vaishya-Upanishad. Kavi, God is called Kavi, the poet. And Puranam, the old poet. When we are given up desires, then alone shall we be able to read and enjoy this universe of God. Read and enjoy, that means to observe the beauty of it. Then everything will become deified. Nooks and not that the world appears beautiful to the senses. That is not the beauty. Once Swamiji was traveling with his Western disciples by ship on the sea, and when they were in the Mediterranean, everybody went to the deck because the sky was appearing beautiful. And when everybody became merged in that, Swamiji said, if nature is so beautiful, think of the reality behind. So there our vision should be. Then everything will become deified. Deified means made into God. Nooks and corners, byways and shady places which we thought dark and unholy will be all deified. They will all reveal their true nature. And we shall smile at ourselves and think that all this weeping and crying has been but child's play, and we were only standing by watching. Now in the case of these people, a prostitute came to the Dakshineshwar temple, and Sri Ramakrishna, looking at her, said, "Oh mother, today you have turned in this form." When Swamiji was walking in Egypt, by the mistake of his follower, they entered a lane inhabited by the prostitutes. And seeing this, Swamiji said, "Ye divinities." But the other picture also is clear in their mind. Swamiji said, "Ye divinities." By thinking too much of the body, see what has happened to them. And the effect is that their divinity was roused as much as possible. They will all reveal their true nature and we shall smile. So do your work, says the Vedanta. It first advises how to work by giving up the apparent. Same thing everywhere. That which appears has to be given up to see the reality appearing as that. Giving up the apparent illusive world. It is illusion. What is meant by that? Seeing God everywhere. So the real meaning of transcendence is in immanence. Thus do your work. Desire to live 100 years, have all earthly desires. That is that second mantra, Jaji Vishesh Chatang Sama. If you wish, only deify them, convert them into heaven, have the desire to live a long life of helpfulness, of blissfulness, and activity on this earth. Thus working, you will find the way out. Evam toi nanyato ito asti. For you, that is the way. There is no other way. If a man plunges headlong into foolish luxuries of the world without knowing the truth, he has missed his footing. He cannot reach the goal. And if a man curses the world, goes into a forest, mortifies his flesh, and kills himself little by starvation, makes his heart a barren waste, kills out all feelings, and becomes harsh, stern, and dried up, that is how Vedanta was understood. That man also has missed the way. These are the two extremes, the two mistakes at either end. Both have lost the way, both have missed the goal. Headlong into luxuries without realizing is the one extreme. And to starve oneself, some people take that to be the ideal. And that is another mistake. So work, says the Vedanta, putting God in everything and knowing Him to be in everything. Work incessantly, holding life as something deified as God Himself, and knowing that this is all we have to do, this is all we should ask for. God is in everything. Where else shall we go to find Him? We have to find Him in everything. He is already in every work, in every thought, in every feeling. Thus, knowing we must work, this is the only way, there is no other. This is the free translation of the second verse of Ishopanishad. Thus, the effects of work will not bind us. Na karma lipyate nare. We have seen how false desires are the cause of all the misery, and evil we suffer. But when they are thus deified, purified through God, they bring no evil. They bring no misery. Those who have not learned this secret will have to live in a demonical world until they discover it. Many do not know what an infinite mine of bliss is in them, around them, everywhere. They have not yet discovered it. What is a demonical world? The Vedanta says ignorance. There is no devil. Our wrong knowledge becomes the devil. We are dying of thirst, sitting on the banks of the mightiest river. We are dying of hunger, sitting near heaps of food. Here is the blissful universe, yet we do not find it. We are in it all the time, and we are always mistaking it. Instead of God, we are seeing the forms only. Religion proposes to find this out for us. So that is what for religion is meant, to enable us to see things in its own light. I referred to a Padya by Meera. मोहे लागी लटक गुरु चरण की, चरण बिना मोहे कछु नहीं भावे, सूखी माया सपन न की. भव सागर सब सूख गयो है, फिक्र नहीं मुझे तरन न की. मीरा के प्रभु गिरिधर नागर, उलट भई मोरे नयन की. I will tell in English that I have no worry about crossing this ocean of the world, because the ocean has dried up. Why it has dried up? Because my vision has become reverted. Reverted compared to our reverse vision. My vision has become real. So, the real vision has shown me that all is God only. Where is the ocean of samsara to cross? Here is the blissful universe, yet we do not find it. We are in it all the time, and we are always mistaking it. Religion proposes to find this out for us. The longing for this blissful universe is in all hearts. Everybody is seeking bliss. It has been the search of all nations. It is the one goal of religion, and this ideal is expressed in various languages in different religions. It is only the difference of language that makes all these apparent divergences. And that is what Sri Ramakrishna found and Swami Vivekananda found. One expresses a thought in one way, another a little differently, yet perhaps each is meaning exactly what the other is expressing in a different language. Now, positive side has been told. Now difficulties will be there. Swamiji is not escaping that by this preaching, not that tomorrow we will feel like that. Then only the sadhana practical becomes. More questions arise in connection with this. It is very easy to talk. From my childhood I have heard of seeing God everywhere and everything. And then I can really enjoy the world. But as soon as I mix with the world and get a few blows from it, the idea vanishes. I am walking in the street thinking God is in the every man, and a strong man comes along and gives me a push, and I fall flat on the footpath. Then I rise up quickly with clenched fist. The blood has rushed to my head, and the reflection goes. Immediately, reflection that all is God. Immediately I become mad. Everything is forgotten. Instead of encountering God, I see the devil. Ever since we were born, we have been told to see God in all, in India at least. Swamiji finds it in every religion. Every religion teaches that see God in everything and everywhere. Do you not remember in the New Testament how Christ says so? We all been taught that, but it is when we come to the practical side that the difficulty begins. You all remember how in Aesop's fables, another story Swamiji is telling to make us understand that how we face the world wrongly. You all remember how in Aesop's fables a fine stag is looking at his form reflected in a lake and is saying to his young one, how powerful I am. Look at my splendid head. Look at my limbs, how strong and muscular they are and how swiftly I can run. In the meantime, he hears the barking of dogs in the distance and immediately takes to his heels, and after he has run several miles, he comes back panting. The young one says, you just told me how strong you were. How was it that when the dogs barked you ran away? Yes, my son, but when the dogs bark, all my confidence vanishes. So, when the obstructions come, when the disturbances come, all is God is forgotten. Such is the case with us. We think highly of humanity. We feel ourselves strong and valiant. We make grand resolves. But when the dogs of trial and temptations bark, we are like the stag in the fable. Then if such is the case, what is the use of teaching all these things? There is the greatest use. The use is this, that perseverance will finally conquer. Nothing can be done in a day. Perseverance, not only patience. We have to go on attempting it to see God in all. We may fail today, but we get power and we become little more powerful tomorrow. We again fail, again we try. And when the power becomes sufficiently strong, then we see God in all. So it depends upon our practice. Without giving up the practice, even if the evil befalls us, we are not to give up the practice. That is the point, perseverance. This self is first to be heard, then it will be thought upon and thus meditated upon. This he brings from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Everywhere in Vedanta, Shravan Manan Nidhyasan is given as the only sadhana. Hear it again and again. By rational thinking, make it firm in your mind, and then by meditation, realize it. Everyone can see the sky, even the very worm crawling upon the earth sees the blue sky, but how very far away it is, so it is with our ideal. Ideal is always above the practical, that Swamiji has shown. Ideal is always above the real as we experience it. So it is with our ideal. It is far away, no doubt, but at the same time we know that we must have it. We must even have the highest ideal. Unfortunately, in this life, the vast majority of persons are groping through this dark life without any ideal at all. Swamiji makes a very important statement here. If a man with an ideal makes 1,000 mistakes, I am sure that the man without an ideal makes 50,000. When sadhakas make mistakes, people blame them. What is your sadhana? You have made this mistake. To this is Swamiji's answer. If a man with an idea, he has a direction. And if he makes a mistake, he understands a mistake, he corrects it. Even if he makes 1,000 mistakes, Swamiji says. But there is no ideal, so everything is wrong. If there is no aim to go for, everything is wrong. Incidentally, that man may do something right. And so Swamiji has given this lesson. Generally, people call them hypocrites. They are not hypocrites, they are struggling. So struggling for realizing the ideal is an important thing. That should apply to seeing God in all. Giving up the ideal and drifting, we are making 50,000 mistakes, Swamiji says. Therefore, it is better to have an ideal, and this ideal we must hear about as much as we can, till it enters into our hearts, into our brains, into our very veins, until it tingles in every drop of our blood and permeates every pore in our body. This is all done by Manan. But by repeated hearing also it is achieved. We must meditate upon it to make it deeper and deeper. Out of the fullness of the heart the mouth speaketh, and out of the fullness of the heart the hand works too. So the practical life will be changed if our consciousness is changed. That is the theme. If our consciousness is changed by hearing, thinking and meditating, then our life will be transformed and we can realize God is in all. It is thought which is the propelling force in us. Fill the mind with the highest thoughts. Hear them day and after day. Think them month after month. Never mind failures. They are quite natural. They are the beauty of life, these failures. What would life be without them? It would not be worth having if it were not for struggles. Where would be the poetry of life? Never mind the struggle, the mistake. I have never heard that example of wall Swamiji had given. Similar example he gives now. I have never heard a cow tell a lie, but it is only a cow, never a man. So never mind these failures, these little backslidings. Hold the ideal 1,000 times, and if you fail 1,000 times, make the attempt once more. The ideal of man is to see God in everything, but if you cannot see Him in everything, the practical way is given now. But if you cannot see in everything, we see Him in one thing, in that thing which you like best, avatar. There we can see God. And once we can see God, we can see everywhere. In that thing which you like best, and then see Him in another. So on you can go. There is infinite life before the soul. Take your time and you will achieve your end. So, we shall continue this reading of Ishopanishad, on which Swamiji is giving this lecture, and he has beautifully explained the relation between karma and jnana, and in the perseverance and the struggle we will win the race. Om Paratatve Sada Lino Ramakrishna Samagya यो धर्म ब्रह्मस्थापनपरो वीरेशं तं नमाम्यहम्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम तत्सत्। श्री रामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।